Welcome to our virtual community that may be joining us via Facebook Live, and to those who will be viewing us at a later time on our YouTube channel and also on Facebook. We're continuing with our January theme, Root and Reboot, and today we're looking at the internal song. Life is an adventure. We live it out loud by learning to listen closely to the internal song and create a new harmony for our life. A driver was feeling very stressed because he was arriving late for an important business meeting and couldn't find a parking space. So he began praying, God, if you create a parking space for me, I promise to be a better person. I'll practice my faith, I'll be kind to everyone, and I'll give up all of my vices. Just then, a parking spot opened up. And as he was pulling into it and concluding his prayer, he said, never mind, I found one. So I would submit to you that this individual driver was more present to his ego than to his prayer and listening to the divine internal voice of gratitude. It's amazing how we, at least sometimes I find myself in those situations where it's like, okay, God, if you get me out of this, I promise I'll never do it again. That was a real good tale that I wove when I was a little boy growing up, trying to get out of it, getting a spanking. Didn't work. This week, we are looking at part 3 of our Introduction to the Science of Mind textbook, which is What It Does. Ernest Holmes reminds us that spirit can give to us only what we can take. However, we must recognize that the universe is impersonal. It gives to all, and it is no respecter of persons. To receive this, however, we must, as Emerson says, get our bloated nothingness out of the way. In other words, we must surrender the ego and open our hearts and our minds to the study and the teachings of science of mind. A body of our teaching comes from our Declaration of Principles, or better known as What We Believe. And this was penned by Dr. Ernest Holmes, our founder, as one of the foundations of science of mind. And he writes in one of the principles, we believe that the kingdom of heaven is within us, and that we experience this kingdom to the degree that we become conscious of it. And then he adds this for clarity. No matter how small our concept of heaven may be, to begin with, it has the possibility of eternal unfoldment. The power to live within the individual self is implanted by the divine, and ultimately everyone will realize the kingdom of heaven, which will become to them as a tree of life, providing food and shelter and perfection and joy. And this is from the companion book to the Science of Mind textbook, Living the Science of Mind, on page 92, paragraph 6. This weekend, we're celebrating the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. And today, January 15th, is his actual birthday. And we're also looking at his adventure of life. And Dr. King is in some places known as for his work in the area of civil rights. And it kind of stops there. And yet, if we look at the total dimension of his life, it was much more than just civil rights. King is widely regarded as America's preeminent advocate of nonviolence and one of the greatest nonviolent leaders in world history. At the age of 35, he was the youngest man to have received the Nobel Peace Prize for his exceptional leadership skills in the principles of peace, nonviolence, and direct action. In his acceptance speech, and this is what really stuck with me, in his acceptance speech, Dr. King stated, "The Nobel Prize was won by a movement of great people whose discipline, wise restraint, and majestic courage led them down a nonviolent course in seeking to establish a reign of justice and a rule of love across this nation of ours." This is the legacy of the life and work of Dr. King that we are compelled to continue until there is equity for everyone. Let's look at King, the mystic and the theologian, for a moment. Early in his career, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. preached about the need to have three dimensions in our life: length, breadth, B-R-E-A-D-T-H, breadth, and height. And I submit these dimensions are congruent with our Science of Mind teachings. The first one, length, is about our connection to ourselves. And in Science of Mind, we teach that we are individualized expressions of pure spirit. This is our connection with ourselves. The breadth is about our connection to our community. And in our global vision, Science of Mind envisions a world that works for everyone. So this is our connection not only with our local community, but also with our global community. And then the final one, height, is about our connection to the transcendent. And this is where the mystic in Martin Luther King comes through. Science of Mind teaches that wherever God is, I am and we are. And he goes on to say that if these three dimensions are out of whack, then we will be too. And I think as we continue to practice the teachings and the principles of Science of Mind, we recognize the value of each one of these elements as being important in our lives. Dr. King never lost his why and lived out loud, listening to its universal song. There's a little story that I came across that I think illustrates listening to the internal song and living life as an adventure. A young divinity student stricken with polio recognized somewhere deep within him an unlikely voice that was calling him to all things, and that is to dance. This voice from the deep, dance, dance, dance. So with great difficulty, he quit divinity school and began to dance. Slowly and miraculously, he regained the use of his legs and went on to become one of the fathers of modern dance. This is the story of Ted Shawn. And what is compelling about this story for us to realize that studying God did not heal him. Embodying God was what healed him. Ted Shawn's miracle shows us that dance in all of its forms is theology lived. What is calling to you from the deep? We embody God and listen to the universal song by paying attention to our thoughts. We talk a lot about paying attention to our thoughts, and we say, change your thinking and change your life as part of the body of work in Science of Mind. Our thoughts influence our living life as an adventure. Our thoughts are a collection of our personal experiences along with the thoughts of the collective unconscious of the world itself. And this is what is referred to in our teaching as the race consciousness. It is the collective unconscious thoughts of the world itself. Unpacking and identifying these thoughts and learning to listen in the eyes of spirit is where we recognize that there's only growth, there's only good, and there's only an ever-expanding experience of life. This is another way of identifying the three dimensions of life described above by Dr. King. Anything that is unlike this, anything that is unlike the true experience of who we are, is not of spirit, and it can be released. In the release, we unify and bring into full expression the internal voice, which becomes the source and the fountain of our daily life. We drown out our internal song and limit our possibilities when we think that we are impoverished. Replacing these limiting thoughts with knowing that there is only abundance, we open our God mind to a bigger idea that replaces the previous beliefs of lack and limitation. When we think and believe in illness or dis-ease, we expand that experience in our lives. By shifting our thoughts to health and wellness, we embody God, and we bring a greater sense of possibility into our world. We live in an expanded sense of radiant and vibrant health and wellness. Listening to our internal song, we activate our conscious mind, and we remember our mental equivalent is where we are working from. This is what we are experiencing and living the adventure of life. And I offer an example of our mental equivalent and how we can limit it or how we can expand it. Let's say that we want to manifest a new house. So we create a vision board. And there's nothing wrong with vision boards. It's the way that we apply the vision that emerges out of that vision board. So we create a vision board that contains all aspects of this new house: the color, the neighborhood, the lot size, the floor plan, the number of rooms, the location, the right price point, the view, and all of these things that we ascribe to the external qualities of this ideal house that we want. However, we must be willing and open to a much bigger idea that Spirit has that is greater than anything that we can imagine. There's an example that was offered of this recently in a workshop that I was participating in. Someone had created this vision of the perfect home that they wanted to manifest. And they would go out and they were working with their realtor, and the realtor had found just what they thought was this ideal home that met all of the specifications on their vision board. They drove up, perfect neighborhood, perfect price point, everything was perfect. But the individual said when they walked into the house and they walked through it, there wasn't a feeling tone. There wasn't a connection. There wasn't an energy connection with that house. And they were somewhat devastated because it had matched everything on their vision board. And so they decided that I'm really not feeling this. I'm not connected with this. So I'm going to let this one go by, even though it has everything that is on my list of desired features and qualities and all of that in a house. And so, or whatever was occurring in their life experience, on their way home, they had to take a detour because of a road closure or an accident or something. And they were driving through this neighborhood that was not on their radar screen. And they saw, just out of the periphery, they saw a sign in front of a house for sale by owner. And there was something, there was an energetic connection that inspired them to turn the corner and go around and come back and stop in front of the house. The exterior looked nothing like what was on their vision board. However, they were motivated and moved to go and knock on the door, and the owner opened the door and invited them to come in. And they shared that as soon as they walked in, they felt the connection, that was the ideal space for them, and that was the home that they wound up buying. And so if we equate this or translate this to a mental equivalent, what we might want to include in our house that represents more than just the physical characteristics would be, what is the intention for the house? What does it represent spiritually? What does it represent emotionally? Perhaps it's safety or security. Perhaps it's a place to establish family. It could be a refuge or a retreat. It could be for comfort. Consider deeply what it is that you want. Consider deeply what it is that you are attached to, and be willing to expand your vision and to expand your thinking from that place. And the way the story ends is that the individual wound up buying the house, and because of the difference in location, the price point was such that it allowed them to create an even broader vision than what was on their vision board. And it turned out to be a marvelous place for them. This is just an example of listening to the internal song. Also, in listening to the internal song, remember that you are never alone. We may think of ourselves and believe that we are loveless. By doing so, we crowd out friendships and relationships in our lives. As we recognize our oneness with the divine, we reach into the realm of possibility, and we open our eyes and see love and beauty all around us. We all face uncertainty and times of challenge. And there's nothing to be ashamed of in having these life experiences. We all have them. And my famous expression is, ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. The key here, though, is to not hide or sugarcoat or spiritually bypass a lived experience. What we do in spiritual community is we come together and support each other in moving through whatever the challenge happens to be in that moment. There may be times when we cannot see the truth for ourselves, and that's okay. And this is why we have people who are trained to see the truth with us. This is when we may choose to reach out to our minister, or to one of the licensed practitioners, or to our global prayer network. You know, one of the requirements, if you will, is for ministers to have a practitioner, because we are put in a position sometimes where we feel that we have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. And it is in those times where our own well needs to be refilled. It needs to be reinvigorated. I think that's the word I'm looking for, reinvigorated. And this is why we have a practitioner, our own confidant, that we can turn to for support and encouragement. And so I encourage you, whatever it is that you're walking through, and it doesn't have to be a dark night of the soul experience. It could be something very joyful and something exciting that is going on in your life. And you are wanting someone to see the truth with you. And this is where you turn to minister or practitioner, or to our global prayer network for that support. Dr. Holmes reminds us that we believe that the kingdom of heaven is within us, and that we experience this kingdom to the degree that we become conscious of it. And this is from our Declaration of Principles in Living the Science of Mind, page 82, paragraph 3. We root and reboot when we reach out to support and share our demonstrations with each other. This reinforces the power and application of the teachings of science of mind, and it establishes ways that we embody God. And so our summary and our call to action this morning is, each day, behold yourself as an expression of life. Each day, be bold in your expression of life. Stay clearly with conviction that the one life is my life today. I step forward into this life with confidence knowing that everything that is necessary to reach its fulfillment is revealed and brought before me. Everything that is necessary, everything that is required to live this abundant, joy-filled life in its fullness is revealed and brought before me. We're always working in the realm of thought. Give yourself permission to live life out loud, to live life as an adventure, and to listen to the internal song of spirit. And our life work or practical application for this week, and I invite you to do these weekly practices as we go along. Using this, again, affirmation from our Declaration of Principles, faith is a certain definite mental attitude. Faith is an affirmative way of using this law, this energy, and this force. And so the challenge that I offer to us this week is to respond to this question. Please leave it up. Yeah, respond to this question. How you feel using faith in your life today. And apply these to these affirmative statements by Dr. Martin Luther King. All of life is interrelated. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because the interrelated structure of reality. How does this apply to your faith? And then the second quote is, nonviolence is a powerful and a just weapon, which cuts without wounding and ennobles the one who wields it. It is a sword that heals. That's how do we apply our faith in the area of nonviolence as a just weapon? Nonviolence against ourselves and nonviolence against another. Let us just say together, and our affirmation for the week is, today my life harmonizes with the song of the one. Let us say that together. Today, my life harmonizes with the song of the one. And as we pray together, I invite us to listen to this prayer from Dr. Martin Luther King. And it's titled, I have decided to stick with love. I'm concerned about a better world. I'm concerned about justice. I'm concerned about brotherhood and sisterhood. I'm concerned about truth. And when one is concerned about that, they can never advocate violence, for through violence you may murder a murderer. You can't murder murder. Through violence you may murder a liar, but you can't establish truth. Through violence you may murder a hater, but you can't murder hate through violence. Darkness cannot put out darkness. Only light can do that. And I say to you, I have also decided to stick with love, for I know that love is ultimately the only answer to humankind's problems. And I'm going to talk about it everywhere I go. I know it isn't popular to talk about in some circles today. And I'm not talking about emotional bosh when I talk about love. I'm talking about a strong, demanding love where I have seen too much hate. And I say to myself that hate is too great a burden to bear. I have decided to love. If you are seeking the highest good, I think you can find it through love. And the beautiful thing is that we aren't moving wrong when we do it, because John was right. God is love. He who hates knows not God, but he who loves has the key that unlocks the door to the meaning of ultimate reality. And I say to you today, my friends, that you may be able to speak with the tongues of men and angels. You may have the eloquence of articulate speech, but if you have not love, it means nothing. Yes, you may have the gift of prophecy. You may have the gift of scientific prediction and understand the behavior of molecules. You may break into the storehouse of nature and bring forth new insights. Yes, you may ascend to the heights of academic achievement so that you have all knowledge. You may boast of your great institutions of learning and the boundless extent of your degrees. But if you have not love, all of these mean absolutely nothing. You may give your goods to feed the poor. You may bestow great gifts to charity. And you may tower high in philanthropy. But if you have not love, your charity means nothing. You may even give your body to be burned and die the death of a martyr. And your spilt blood may be a symbol of honor for generations yet unborn. And thousands may praise you as one of history's greatest heroes. But if you have not love, your blood was spilt in vain. What I'm trying to get you to see this morning is that man may be self-centered in his self-denial and self-righteousness and his self-sacrifice. His generosity may feel like ego, and his piety may feel like pride. So without love, violence becomes egotism, and martyrdom becomes spiritual pride. This I know, that each of us is an activity of God as love. We are each love, each responding uniquely to Spirit's call, being the living embodiment of oneness. Each of us learning and living in oneness, being love, being peace, doing our part to transform the world. I have decided to stick with love. And so it is in love that I speak a word of blessing and gratitude for this spiritual community and for all places where people are gathering in the name and nature of the one. Recognizing the giver of life gives to all evenly, equally, and without withholding anything of itself. And so as we open our hearts and minds to receive the gift of unconditional love, our challenge is to share that gift with those that we connect with each and every day. I speak a word of blessing for those who are reaching out in many ways, both silently and both in community and in other connections, knowing that it is only what we do for Spirit that will last. It is only what we do in love that will last. And so it is in love and gratitude that I release this prayer, I release this time back into that law, which always says yes, just allowing it to be so. And if any of what has been spoken resonates with you in any way, let us affirm it together by saying, and so it is. In the talk, I mentioned a reminder to reach out to a minister or practitioner to support us, to support me, to support each other with whatever the life experience is that we're going through. Here at the Monterey Center, we have ministers and practitioners who are available and ready to assist you and to pray with you. You may go to our website, www.montereycsl.org, for a listing of our contact information. On there, you will also find the contact information for our Centers for Spiritual Living Global Ministry of Prayer, and also our partners in Unity through Silent Unity, through their prayer ministry. And so It's available to you, use it. It's available to you, please use it. And now it is time for us to participate in the law of circulation known as money, or as we say in the traditional church, it's offering time. This is a time to share our abundance with this spiritual community as we support not only the work that we do internally, but the work that we do externally. And for those who are here in the center this morning, we have a donation box on our hospitality table where you may make your donation. And I express deep gratitude for those who contribute online, for those who contribute by mail, and those who text to give. And let us say together our affirmation of abundance. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in a life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And we have on our screen the ways that you may contribute to the center. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who participated in the Santa Project last year. This is an annual project. We received a very nice letter of gratitude from the organizer of the event, thanking us as one of the communities that contributed to the whole in making it a very successful and a very bright Christmas and holiday season for children and families who live in under-resourced areas of our Monterey County, our local community. And so thank you very much for that. And a big shout out to Denise Kaku for spearheading the project, for acquiring the gifts, yes. And for creating an opportunity for us to wrap as a community and to not only contribute of our financial resources, but also to contribute our love and our energy in infusing those gifts with that love. So thank you for your wonderful support of that project and your support of everything else that we offer here through our center. A few reminders for today is our first meeting of Soul Collage for 2023. It will take place after service. Denise has prepared for us a light snack, and you're invited to participate in that and stay for the Soul Collage. And it's another way of listening to our soul story, our soul song, by going in and asking, what is Spirit inviting me to come forth? You know, what is the deep calling me to? What am I being called to dance? Am I being called to love more? Am I being called to share more? What is the deep calling to us? So stay with us and participate in this project. On next Sunday, our spiritual living discussion circle resumes, and we use the articles from the Science Mind magazine for the discussion group. And so if you have not purchased your January edition of the magazine, it is available here for a donation of $5, and we will calculate the tax. And you can just leave your donation in the little kiosk where the magazines are. And then on the 5th Sunday, we will have a guest speaker, and it will be one of our staff, one of our outreach staff ministers, Reverend Tony Bradford, also known as Cousin Tony. Tony is part of our community that supports us as an outreach minister in the Palm Springs area. And again, a big shout out and thank you to our ecclesiastical team and our board for allowing us to issue a letter of call to Reverend Tony as he continues his path to ordination. So we'll have more information about that next week. And I don't think we have enough time this morning for sharing. for our demonstrations. Normally, we include that. I would invite you, as you go throughout the week, to just make a note of the way God shows up in your life. And next Sunday, as you join us, drop that in the chat so that we may all have an experience of sharing the demonstrations with each other. And so now I invite Connie, practitioner Connie Ziegenbein, to come and deliver our closing prayer.
As we close this service, we bring that consciousness of this message into our experience, knowing that the Spirit goes before us, making perfect our way. Our intention is to love and to let our light shine as that Spirit is already loving us, shining through us, and expanding by means of us into the world. Each of us has an opportunity to know the truth as we see it, as we know it, as we feel it, as we reveal it. We are lifted in a greater consciousness and a greater experience. We might remember the times that we felt love, the times that our hearts opened, and we can feel it, know it again. This is our intention, to let that light within us shine more brightly than it ever has. So I invite you to say with me and intend with me that Spirit is forever working for our good. And so it is.